Thank you so much for listening to Breadwinning Mums. We really appreciate your continued support over the last year, and we're happy to announce that we have published the Breadwinning Mums book. Yay! This book is based on the conversations from the Breadwinning Mums Season 1 episodes. It highlights the candid journeys of each mums, as well as a golden nugget of wisdom from their life's lessons. Now is the perfect time to give the gift of the Breadwinning Mums book to the special mums in your life or to yourself. No matter where you are in life, I'm sure the practical tips within the Breadwinning Mums book will help you take your lives just a little bit further. Limited copies available, so order yours now at breadwinningmums.com. That's breadwinningmums.com. Coming up next on the Breadwinning Mums.
I wish I didn't stress as much as I have in my life. I've put so much pressure on myself to, do and have the things I have. I think I'd also cherish the time I had with my parents at the time as well, because I feel like now that I'm a parent myself, and I just have less time to spend with them. And, they say that the most time you're ever going to spend with your child is up until, statistic is till about 11 years of age. And so I think I'd definitely like to say, spend as much time as you can with your parents then, because now trying to organize to go and see them with Bobby is a whole other adventure.
Everyone, and welcome to the Breadwinning Mums podcast. This is a place where we debunk the myths of working mums, cheer each other on, and show the world that it's okay to be a mum and still pursue excellence in your chosen area of expertise. Today we're chatting with Amarjot Bagga, a fellow breadwinning mum to a baby daughter, Bobby. Amarjot is the head of environmental and social impact at Iress. She shared with us her life story about moving to Australia from India, how this experience shaped her perspective and ingrained the volunteering and social impact aspect of her life's work, and gave us practical tips on how we could all contribute towards making the world more sustainable in our own little ways. Here we go with Amarjot Bagga. Hello, Amarjot.
Hi, Jane.
How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Summer is finally here, so I can't complain.
It depends. I suppose Sydney and Melbourne sometimes don't feel like that. We've had some not summer-like weather.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hope it's here to stay for a bit longer. So Amarjot, we've met once very briefly, but we've been in touch because we share the same MBA program through UNSW. But can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you came to be where you are, where you started from?
Yeah, sure. I suppose I'll try my best to go from the beginning, but also talk through how we sort of crossed paths, which is really exciting. So I was born in India. My family migrated to Australia when I was about 9. And from there, I grew up very much doing community work. We were involved in just from a cultural perspective. Back in the 90s, there wasn't as many families that we knew that were Indian. So especially the area we grew up in, southwest Sydney. So we tried to be involved as much in the community as possible. And I think that really ingrained the volunteering and social impact side of the work I would come to do. And then I just grew up working and trying to sort of forge a career path. And I did a business degree at university and was really interested in corporate social responsibility topics. And I landed in my first job out of uni was in forestry and learning about carbon when it wasn't very cool back 15 years ago. And would become a hot topic, and then did humanitarian aid work, worked in different environmental and ESG fields, environment, social governance fields across those years, did board work as well in the prevention of trafficking, did humanitarian aid, hunger relief overseas. And at the moment, I work for a tech company leading environmental and social impact, public company, global. So I think all of the different career opportunities I've had have led to this.
Yeah, perfect. And it's not just that, you also have family lives. Can you tell us a little bit more about your family lives?
Always think about corporate life. And family life, I've got a baby girl who's 17 months, and I started my MBA in 2021, new job, and I think soon after I found out I was pregnant, but I was too stubborn. Not to progress, and impatient, I think. I continued studying, although I had an amazing new job with a lot of responsibility. And like I said, through pregnancy, which was a total breeze. And then my husband was very supportive. I think if I didn't have that, there's no way I could have juggled, being on a foundation board and having a corporate role. And then when she was a newborn, I decided to continue that study. So I finished the MBA, which is how you and I sort of met when we were both in our final stages. So it was really nice to cross paths and learn more about how you balanced it all, living and working overseas with your little ones.
Yeah, it was crazy. I can't believe you proceeded to go ahead even when she was here through the sleep deprivation. So was it all planned when you had the new job, the MBA, and the pregnancy? Were all three planned?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Even the way I got the role, the role was never really a job. It was actually just a coffee conversation. I was quite happy where I was in terms of employment, but because of a network, someone had asked me to have coffee with the chief legal officer at Iress, and from there it turned into this, problem that they had at the time, which was they'd never had an ESG strategy. And to me, creating something from scratch, it seemed incredible. So I think, we were going through IVF and all of those infertility challenges over the last sort of 2 to 3 years. And there's no way in my grand plan of thought did I think that I would start a new job in May of 2021 post COVID, or still living the COVID restrictions. And then the MBA, that was my focus actually. So I had wanted to do the MBA 2 years earlier, but the timing was never right. So I had finally got all my ducks in a row to start the MBA, not having the job lined up. So I had started the MBA, then started the new job actually probably the same week, if my memory serves me right. I actually love that anxiety because I think I feed off it. It powers me. Anxiety is my superpower, I say. It really powers me. So it powered me, I think, through all of the different challenges of trying to settle into a new role. It was a global role, so I was working very, very fun hours into the night. Again, helped me study because I could basically finish a call at 8 p.m. Australian time, do a couple more hours of work till 10, and then I had this whole routine going. And then the pregnancy, like I said, completely unplanned. It happened out of the blue and miracle for us. And I think I was just so happy in life, and that's probably why it did happen. I was studying, I was stimulated. I had such an amazing role at the time. I was so stimulated that I wasn't thinking about it, as they say.
Your body relaxes, and that's when it happened.
And it's funny, they say it happens when you're the most, stress-free and relaxed. I can't attest to that. I think it's
Yeah.
probably the most stressed I've ever been, just from a responsibility and
Professionally.
yeah, and also
Mm.
the task at hand and what we were trying to do, from creating something from scratch and cementing it all.
Mm. That's amazing. How was your IVF journey before it happened? Was it a really long road? You mentioned that it was two
Yeah,
years.
about 2 years. Yeah, and look, we were diagnosed to be unfertile medically, medically unfertile, but there was really nothing wrong with us, if that makes sense. We were young enough. We're now, mid to late 30s, and there was nothing categorically wrong, and
Mm.
which is really difficult to hear, because it means, well, then why isn't it happening? And through that journey, I think we learned a lot of patience. We went through the adoption route because,
Oh, wow.
we wanted to be
Yeah.
parents.
Mm.
We would have loved to adopt. That's something we were pursuing, but it's really difficult to adopt. It's really expensive, and we did a couple of interviews with some organizations, but it was COVID as well, and that sort of shut a lot of opportunities out for us in that time period. Um, and so look, we're the lucky ones, right? We only went through 2 years. We did IUIs and 2 IVF rounds, and we're lucky to be financially able to go through that process, because it isn't cheap.
Mm.
Um, so I definitely, and then we were able to go through a naturopath, and that's how,
Mm.
we were able to pursue the next sort of journey for us.
Mm. Okay, that's interesting. How long have you been either married or together for at that stage?
So we were married December 2016, and we met earlier that year. So
Oh, wow.
we now have been married for 7 years. Coming
Okay.
up this weekend, I think. We always forget our anniversary, but it's
Oh,
this
wow.
weekend.
Yeah. Okay. Congrats.
Thank you.
All right. Any plans for another one, or are you one and done?
Oh gosh, I say we would love another one, but I think we're just starting to sleep again. So I don't know
Yeah.
if that's something that's on our agenda right now. We're just
Yeah.
enjoying, I say we're enjoying to be able to know what a couple of hours in a row feels like to sleep. So definitely enjoying it.
Yeah. Okay. And what's your daughter like? What's her name?
So her name's Bobby. She is very naughty, and I don't mean cheeky, I don't mean sassy, I just mean naughty. She's just a naughty little girl. Um, she will figure out how to find the worst possible way to interact with a toy, piece of furniture, anything you give her. It's like having a puppy. She's very curious. She's very, very loves anything new. So whether it's books or an Amazon box, or we do like to, we explore anything.
Yeah. How has having Bobby changed your perspective in life?
Oh my gosh, I just, you hear all of these sort of cliches. It puts things into perspective, and you appreciate the little things more. It's true. I would say that,
Mm.
when I used to get so nervous before a presentation, or before an important meeting, or before, I think, going on a panel or going on stage, I have not felt any nerves since her birth. I think,
Oh, yeah.
whether you are lucky enough to give birth, or whether you become a mum or a parent in another way, I
Mm.
think that journey of becoming a parent, it changes you for life.
Mm.
I know for me that the early days of worrying about, is she sleeping, is she breathing, and
Yeah.
I think all those little things now do affect me, and just definitely puts things into perspective.
Mm. I was thinking as well, with your line of work with ESG, I think it would add a new dimension, I guess, in what you do, because it's not really just about your work. It's about Bobby's generation and maybe generations after that. It has a much more lasting legacy.
Yeah, it's just funny. This morning I was talking to an old MBA colleague, and she was asking me whether I enjoy the social impact side of my work or environmental. And I said, funnily enough, I think I've definitely been stronger with the social side. I've always been passionate about children's and migrant causes. But having Bobby has now changed me and changed my environmental lens. And if my poor husband thought that I was, eco warrior before this, now, any piece of rubbish and all of that, I'm just more conscious of the world she will have, and doing my line of work, looking at climate science and knowing that, when she's growing up or when she'll be my age, the destruction and the environmental and biodiversity loss she will face really affects me.
Can you take us to the young Amarjot? What was she like? Has she always been very much aware of what the world around her and very caring?
I don't know if I'd say I was very caring. I'll have to ask my mum about that. But I think growing up and being a migrant in Australia, I had an amazing community where I grew up, really supportive. However, I think I always knew that we came from a place where people weren't as fortunate. So when we did used to go back to India and visit, and we used to see extreme poverty, and we were complaining about not getting the toy we wanted for Christmas. Again, I provided some perspective, but as a child, you do forget. You see that, you come back, and you're back into your developed world life. I think that background really did help form my relationships with friends as well. I think I've got an amazing group of friends that have influenced my trajectory of my life, and they're all involved in, I think, important causes in their life. So was I very caring? I think I was. I think I've always loved children. I've always loved family. I've always loved community. All those principles have been really important to me. I think I wanted to be a teacher at one point as well. Again, that, I loved my teachers. I was a total nerd. By was, I mean am. And I think I really enjoyed those professions that were quite caring. I worked at a doctor's surgery for 6 years through high school as well. And I loved that, taking care of others.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. And talking about teachers, you are currently considering further education as well?
I think you and I spoke about that. It's still on the cards, but I always think, am I crazy enough? And now my husband's, working on a really exciting venture for himself. So I think we do balance whether it's his turn to give a crazy idea a go, which consumes a lot of his time. So I think it would definitely have to be, it's no longer my decision. It's something that has to be right for, I think, our little family. I have to look at Bobby's needs in the future as well. From a work perspective, there's some exciting things that I have on next year as well. So I can no longer sort of, I think, go in and say, well, I'll be able to do it all. Well, I can't anymore. Definitely have to be more conscious of my stakeholders, as it were.
Okay, interesting. So you've explained to us what life is like for you right now, which is quite a lot, but how are you juggling all that?
Some days are good and other days are really difficult. And, I am really grateful to have an employer that supports women and parents returning to work. And I've been back at work since Bobby was about 9 months. We've got an amazing return to work policy, and then maternity leave was generous. But I think if I didn't have a manager that was, she's a mum herself, and so I think she has lived experience with what the challenges are. So I've got an amazing, I go into the office for social connection, and I think I really value working with my colleagues and seeing them in the office. And then I also have the flexibility of working from home, and I do them both. Some days I have to go in more days because of meetings and sort of important work. And then we've got a full-time nanny that cares for Bobby because she's not a childcare baby, she's decided. She told us very early on. And then my husband works from home. Oh, a lot happened. So she decided she was going to cry all day and get dehydrated for.
Oh no.
Yep. So
Okay.
we've and you know what? It wasn't 1 or 2 weeks. We tried for 6 weeks, and
Oh wow. I mean,
that
she's
didn't work for us.
determined.
She's decided she doesn't like childcare, and she's a
Yeah.
princess and wants one-on-one care. So we're very grateful to have an amazing nanny.
Mm,
And the nanny cares for Bobby amazingly well in line with our values.
mm,
And so we're very grateful to have. I think childcare is very important, to find the right childcare.
yeah.
That's what enables us to do what we need to. My parents live an hour away, so we don't have any sort of family support. So we do need to lean on, that childcare.
Yeah. What was that transition like when you first returned to work?
Um, Transition was smooth in some respects, but then difficult in others, because I felt so much guilt, where I said, we tried so long to have her. We've been waiting for 5 years to have a child.
Mm,
Why am I going back to work? And actually, my husband had some amazing advice, and he said, "You're not going back to work for her, you're going back to work for yourself." And he said, and you're going back to work because of what your own needs are, and not because of money and not because of anything else. And I think that really put it into perspective. And because I said to him, I completely understand why women become stay-at-home carers, because I can see it. I could do it today, whereas that
yeah.
was a very difficult,
Mm,
I think, assertion for me, because I've always been quite career minded,
mm,
and I could literally give it all up for her if she needed me.
yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay. If you could give your younger self one advice, I guess go back to that young Amarjo who was about to go through IVF, adoption, and weighing the balance between either alternatives, knowing all of the wealth of knowledge that you know now. What advice would you give that
Wow.
younger
Okay.
Amarjo?
um, I would definitely say, I mean, I wouldn't believe it at the time. I only believe it now because I've been through it. But I think everything works out, and you become comfortable with, whatever sort of path you take. So I wish I didn't stress as much as I have in my life. I've put so much pressure on myself to, do and have the things I have. But then again, at the same time, that's what's provided the drive for me. I think I'd also cherish the time I had with my parents at the time as well, because I
Ah,
feel like now that I'm a parent myself, and I just have less time to
yeah,
spend with them. And
yeah,
they say that the most time you're ever going to spend with your child is up until, statistic is till what, about 11 years of age. And
yeah,
so I think I'd definitely like to say, spend as much time as you can with your parents then, because now trying to
yeah.
organize to go and see them with Bobby is a whole other adventure.
And one question that I always ask all moms is, what's your alpha mom song?
Oh gosh, okay. I think it's one song that I really, really love is Budapest. I think
Oh yeah,
by George Ezra. I think that's the
yeah,
name.
yeah.
It's a song that I share with my best friend in the US, Chesney, and it's a song that we listened to as we were driving through Kangaroo Valley, and we were making dreams of what we wanted in our life, and we manifested what we have now. I think
Oh wow.
that really takes me back to 10 years ago. This was 10 years ago, when we
Yeah,
were manifesting the kind of life we wanted. So I think if I'm ever feeling, oh, it's going to be a
yeah,
hard week, we both sort of listen to that song, we message each other that we've heard that song, and I think it takes me back
yeah,
to a time when I wanted all this, and now that I have it, I
yeah,
just remind myself.
yeah. That you can do it again, or that you are feeling grateful for what you have.
I think both. I think
Yeah,
both. Like there's definitely more leaning towards the more gratitude, and
yeah.
to be very grateful for what I have, but also remember that there was a time when I, was creating and shaping and dreaming of this.
Mm, yeah, perfect. All right. And so for all of the breadwinning moms that are listening right now, who wants to do what's good for themselves, for their families, but also for the environment and the world at large, what one last tip that you could give them if there was just one thing that they could do?
I would think about your footprint. So I know that's not a small thing, but I look at everything from the nappies we buy to the products I use for Bobby. So every decision that we make as mums has an impact. So try to buy from sustainable brands and products. Do your research. Again, I know, I explored whether I buy nappies or whether I do cloth. And unfortunately, due to the chemicals and the cycling process, it's actually better to have nappies.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
again, it all depends on how you sort of evaluate that, and also time. Like I don't have the resource to be able to allocate to that. But again, if it weighed up for me that was a better option, then I definitely would go down that pathway. So for me, my lasting advice is don't underestimate I think the value that you have as a parent on the decisions you're making now, anything to do with your baby, from a product perspective, especially, and also with food waste as well. I mean, I try to teach Bobby about food waste, which I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
So I eat everything she doesn't just so she learns that nothing goes in the bin.
Yeah. Okay. Any specific resources that you go to for those who are Australian based, and your websites or apps that you use?
I'll try to send you some links. I think I probably take it for granted that I'm a bit here, there, and everywhere. But Australian Parents for Climate Change, I think, is a wonderful group to be involved in. Have a look at their website and their resources. And then there's some, eco mom websites as well that have some great tips on those evaluations as well.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And one last tip for quite pessimistic parents who are thinking that the world is not going to reach, Paris Agreement. How can we create a slightly more positive impact to our kids' mindset? Anything that we could do that is also realistic at the same time?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's about awareness. Our generation of mums, is probably the most aware than all of our previous generations. And I think trying to pass that knowledge on to our children. So, like I said, whether it's concentrate on the one thing, if it's food waste, we want to chat about. I think what's really important for me, and I'm going to start Bobby as soon as she turns 2, is volunteering and showing her what our community needs are, starting small, and hopefully we'll get to do it in developing countries like we had exposure to. But choose what works best for your family, and show kids why there's a crisis of either environmental or social from a homeless perspective, especially in Sydney, and take them out to soup kitchens and show them how it works and why it exists.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Thanks so much, Amarjot, for your time.
You're
Best of
welcome.
luck with your next journey, and I hope to see you around.
Thanks so much, Jane. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. See you then. This episode of The Breadwinning Mums was produced by me, Jane Lim, and our theme music was produced by Sam McNally. We recorded this episode on the lens of Dark people who have passed their parenting story for generations. We pay our respects to the elders past and present, and thank them for caring for country. Connect with us through LinkedIn or Instagram at Breadwinning Mums. Until next time.